Hey everyone, Mr. MC here. This is a lap guide for Sainte-Croix C in reverse with the Peugeot RCZ. Let's get this started. Your first braking point is just after you pass the 50-meter mark. You can also use the start of this gray slab of concrete on the left as your first braking point. Brake hard for a moment, quickly ease off of the brakes, and stay on 4th gear as you start to accelerate. Brake when the curb on the right ends. You want to use some of your braking power and be nice and careful when you start to accelerate. This left turn can be taken at full throttle, but then you want to brake right after. Brake when the striped barrier on the right ends. Use some of your braking power to bring yourself to the curbs. Slowly ease off of the brakes. Carefully start to apply the throttle. Do not touch the grass at all. Then do a lift off of the throttle as you go through this turn. Stay as far to the right as you can. And when you approach this sharp little apex right here, that is when you want to do a quick lift off of a throttle. And just after you pass it, that is when you start to brake. Bring yourself as far to the inside of the turn as you can, just letting the car rotate. Go on 3rd gear and slowly start to accelerate. We'll fast forward through this, and your next braking point is just after you pass this little building that is on the left. Brake hard for a short moment. Slowly ease off of the brakes, just bring yourself to the inside of the turn. Slowly start to accelerate, and by the time you're pointing towards this tree that happens to be in the middle of this bridge, you should be at full throttle. Bring yourself to the left, and your next braking point is just after you pass the end of the shadow that is on the rail, that is on the right. Brake hard for a short moment, take your time easing off of the brakes, and once you're ready to go, quickly get on the throttle. Now we'll fast forward through this, and you want to brake before the bridge railing ends. So you brake right around here, and this will set you up to nicely take this turn as it does go downhill and it's a little brutal. Then take these turns nice and easy, just going at it at full throttle. Try not to go too wide on this left turn, and when you're in between the start and the end of the curb on the left, that is when you want to start to brake. Do be a little careful here as this is a bit of a blind turn, so it will be a bit hard to see the apex. Slowly start to accelerate, bring yourself all the way to the left side of the track, brake just after the curb on the left starts. Bring yourself to the inside of the track, slowly accelerate, and you want to start to brake right around here. This is just like the last turn, and unfortunately for this turn, it doesn't have a braking point, so you will need to memorize where you need to brake. Brake just before you reach the 100-meter board. Bring yourself to the inside of the turn, and be nice and careful with your throttle input. Go to the left side of the track as soon as you can, and brake just after the curb on the left starts. Slowly ease off of the brakes, slowly apply the throttle, and bring yourself to the right. Just after you reach the end of this dark patch of tarmac, that is when you want to start to brake. Focus on letting the car rotate around this turn, and then quickly start to accelerate. We'll fast forward through this one more time and brake just after you pass the 150-meter mark. You'll be braking hard for a while, and you want to be extra careful here as there's no space for errors. Just take your time going through this turn, get the car pointing where you want to go, and then start to fully accelerate. But that is pretty much it for this lap guide. We'll finish this lap, and then we'll go ahead and quickly talk about the strategies. So for this race, you will have the racing medium and hard tires available to you, but the racing hard tires will be the required tires, so make sure you put them on so you don't get the 1-minute penalty after the race ends. You just want to be a little careful as you go through the first couple of sectors, as your tires will be a bit cold, and these sectors are actually just tricky overall. In terms of total time, the 0 stop is going to be slightly quicker than the 1 stop. When I did the 0 stop, I ended up being 2 seconds faster than the 1 stop. In terms of tire wear, it's not going to be too much of an issue for a lot of cars. So for example, here with the Dodge Viper, I'm on racing medium tires and I'm 4 laps in, and the tire wear problem is barely starting to kick in. If I were to bring the brake balance a bit more towards the back of the car, that will make the tire wear a little more even and it'll be a bit less of a problem. If we're talking about front wheel drives, then they will have the tire wear problem come in a lot sooner. So front wheel drive cars, or just cars in general that have heavy tire wear, they will have to pit at the end of lap 3. But if your car has decent to good tire wear, then you can pit at the end of lap 4. And once again, this is just for the racing medium tires. The racing hard tires, they should be good for the entire duration of the race. You do lose around 7.5 seconds, give or take, due to how this course is laid out. So the 7.5 seconds that you lose from the pit stop will let the no stoppers quickly catch up to you and potentially undercut you just as you're exiting the pit stop. And one of the things I do want to mention is that if you do decide to go with the no stop, you want to make sure that you don't get into too many battles, as you're going to be at a disadvantage for quite a while, especially if those behind you are on the racing medium tires. If you can try to position yourself just right so that they pass you and you can get their slipstream and you'll be able to keep up with them and you'll be able to undercut them as they go into the pit stop. And part of this is going to be possible because there are a lot of high-speed sections. There are quite a few long straights, so it's going to be pretty easy to keep up with them. For example, this straight over here, it's going to be really easy to keep up with those on the racing medium tires, especially if you're on their slipstream. And with that said, this track is pretty wide. There are many high-speed sections, many straights, so there's going to be a lot of opportunities to do some overtaking. But that is pretty much it for this guide. Don't forget that the racing hard tires are required. As for the suggested strategy, I personally suggest doing the no stop just because you don't have to pit at all and you can easily undercut those cars that are doing the one stop. But the one stop can also be just as viable as well, so if you want to do a couple laps on the racing medium tires, try to make up some positions before you have to go to the pit stop, then the one stop is going to be the strategy for you. But that is all from me. I'm going to go ahead and sign off now. So this is Mr. MCA, wishing you a good race, and I'll see you in the next video.